Ever pondered why we constantly compare ourselves with others? It's a question that crosses our minds, often more than we'd like to admit. This act of comparison, it's not just your battle, it's a universal phenomenon. Regardless of age, race, or culture, we all fall into the trap of measuring our worth against others. But what does this do to our self-esteem? What impact does it have on our happiness? Let's dive into a profound tale from Buddha's life that sheds light on this matter. Born as Siddhartha Gautama, Buddha lived a life of luxury. Nestled in the heart of ancient India, he was a prince, born into opulence and privilege. His father, the king, sheltered him within the palace walls, shielding him from the harsh realities of the world. Siddhartha had the finest of everything: clothes, food, education, you name it. Yet despite all of these worldly pleasures, a sense of unease lingered within him. He yearned to understand the world beyond his golden cage. One day, driven by this insatiable curiosity, Siddhartha ventured out of the palace. What he saw changed him forever. He encountered the undeniable realities of life: old age, sickness, death. These sights shook him to his core, igniting a spark of enlightenment that would forever change the course of his life. Siddhartha realized that material wealth and luxury could not shield him, or anyone, from the inevitable suffering of life. This realization led him to renounce his royal life. He left the comfort and security of his palace, his family, and his kingdom, embarking on a spiritual quest to understand the root of human suffering and how to overcome it. He became an ascetic, leading a life of simplicity and meditation, seeking answers to life's most profound questions. But remember, his journey to enlightenment was not as easy as it might seem. It was a path riddled with challenges and hardships, a testament to the human spirit's resilience in pursuit of truth. Among Buddha's many disciples, there was one who constantly compared himself with others. This disciple, let's call him Ananda, was not unlike many of us today. Ananda was diligent and sincere in his practice, but he had this one habit that was causing him much distress. He was constantly comparing his progress on the path of enlightenment with that of his fellow disciples. This was a natural human tendency, but for Ananda, it became an obsession. He would look at others around him, noticing how they appeared to be more serene, more insightful, more enlightened. He'd see them meditating with such tranquility, while he himself would struggle to quiet his mind. He would hear them speak wisdom, while he felt he was merely parroting the teachings. Ananda's habit of comparison was making him unhappy. His perception of others' progress was overshadowing his own. He was focusing so much on others that he was neglecting his own journey. His path to enlightenment was becoming a race, a competition, and he felt he was losing. This constant comparison was not only leading to dissatisfaction, but was also eating away at his self-esteem and confidence. But Ananda was not one to shy away from his troubles. He was honest with himself, recognizing this destructive pattern. He knew it was not helping him, he knew it was steering him away from his path. He knew he needed to address it. So he decided to do what he did best. He decided to learn. Ananda was a disciple of Buddha, after all. He had the greatest teacher one could ask for. He had someone who had walked the path, who had attained enlightenment, who had the wisdom to guide him. So he decided to take his dilemma to Buddha. He decided to seek advice, to seek guidance, to seek a way out of this cycle of comparison and dissatisfaction. And so, he approached Buddha with his troubles. The stage was set for a profound teaching, a lesson not just for Ananda but for all of us who find ourselves caught in the web of comparison. For when we compare, we despair. And the path to enlightenment is not about despair, but about finding inner peace and understanding. Buddha, with his infinite wisdom, listened to the disciples' concerns. With a serene smile, Buddha responded in his soothing, calming voice. He shared an observation about the world around them, pointing towards a garden filled with a variety of flowers blooming at different stages. Some were in full bloom, showcasing their vibrant colors and exuding a delightful fragrance. Others were just buds tightly closed, yet holding a promise of beauty within. Some were wilting, their glory fading, but still possessing an elegance in their own right. Buddha explained, "Observe these flowers. Each one of them is at a different stage of life. The bud does not feel inferior to the bloom, nor does the bloom feel superior to the bud. They are simply different, each beautiful in their own way. Similarly, the wilting flower does not despair over its fading beauty. It understands that it has lived its cycle, having been a bud once, then a bloom, and now it is time to let go." He continued, "Each flower blooms at its own pace. It does not rush to bloom, nor does it delay its wilting. It simply follows its own natural rhythm. The same applies to us humans. Each of us is unique with our own set of skills, talents, and pace of growth. Comparisons only lead to dissatisfaction and unhappiness. It is important to understand and accept our individuality, our uniqueness. Buddha further added, just as the garden is beautiful because of the variety of flowers, the world is beautiful because of the variety of people. Each one of us contributes in our own unique way. We are all part of the grand design, and each of us has our own role to play. Wrapping up his response, Buddha shared these profound words, just like a flower, each individual is unique and blooms at their own pace. It is futile to compare ourselves with others. Instead, let us focus on our own growth, our own journey. Let us bloom in our own time, in our own beautiful way. Just like a flower, each individual is unique and blooms at their own pace. The disciple pondered over Buddha's words. His mind, once a whirlpool of chaotic thoughts and insecurities, began to settle into a calm sea of introspection. The Buddha's wisdom wasn't just an answer to his dilemma, it had opened a door to a new perspective, a new way of perceiving himself and his journey. The disciple began to see his life not as a race with others, but as a unique journey of self-discovery. He realized that his path was his alone to walk, punctuated by his own highs and lows, his victories and defeats. No one else's journey could be superimposed onto his own, for every journey is as unique as the individual undertaking it. The disciple's heart, once heavy with the weight of comparison, felt lighter. He understood that he had been shackled by the chains of comparison, which had only served to hold him back. His constant measuring of his worth against others had blurred his vision, preventing him from seeing his own growth and potential. As he delved deeper into this newfound understanding, the disciple began to accept his individual journey. He realized that his growth wasn't defined by how fast or slow he moved compared to others, but by his own progress and evolution. He had been so focused on catching up with others, that he had forgotten to appreciate his own strides forward. This realization brought forth a sense of liberation. He no longer felt the need to compare his journey with others, for he understood that everyone's path is different, shaped by their own experiences and lessons. He saw the beauty in his own journey, and the growth it had brought him. In the end, the disciple comprehended the profound wisdom in Buddha's words. He realized the futility of comparison and the importance of focusing on his own growth. He understood that the journey to enlightenment isn't about racing against others, but about understanding oneself, growing at one's own pace and embracing one's own unique journey. This was his path to freedom and self-realization. So, what does this ancient tale teach us? This story, like many of Buddha's narratives, is not merely an anecdote to be forgotten once told. It holds a profound lesson that resonates with us even today. It emphasizes the importance of recognizing our individuality, of appreciating our unique journey instead of comparing ourselves with others. In the grand tapestry of life, each of us is a distinct thread, our color, our texture, our pattern, unlike any other. To compare ourselves with others is to devalue our uniqueness, to disregard our own path. It's like comparing the sun to the moon. Both shine in their own time, in their own way, and both are necessary for the balance of the universe. Self-acceptance is another key takeaway from this tale. Acceptance of who we are, where we are, and the pace at which we are growing. It's about understanding that we are a work in progress, and that's perfectly okay. We are not meant to be perfect. We're meant to be real, authentic, and true to ourselves. Lastly, the story highlights the importance of focusing on personal growth rather than on comparisons. It's about nurturing our own garden, watering our own plants, and patiently waiting for them to bloom. It's about cherishing our journey, regardless of how it compares to others. Remember, your journey is yours alone. Cherish it, nurture it, and let it bloom at its own pace. Comparison, as they say, is the thief of joy. It's a simple truth that we often forget in this highly competitive world where we're constantly bombarded by standards of success and achievement. But as Buddha's tale has shown us, this path of comparison only leads to dissatisfaction and a loss of self-worth. The story of the Buddha and his disciple wasn't just about a flower blooming at its own pace. It was a metaphor for our lives, a reminder that each of us has a unique journey, and that we should focus on our personal growth rather than comparing it to others. When we choose to compare, we overlook our individual talents, strengths, and accomplishments. We forget that our value is not determined by someone else's progress or achievements. We forget that we are like the flower in Buddha's garden, each blooming in our own time, in our own unique way. So, let's take a lesson from this profound tale. Let's stop measuring our worth against others. Instead, let's focus on nurturing our own growth, celebrating our milestones no matter how small they may seem. Let's appreciate our uniqueness, our individuality. Let's remember that we are not in competition with others, but with ourselves, striving to be better than we were yesterday. So the next time you find yourself comparing, remember the Buddha's flower and bloom at your own pace. Embrace your journey, your pace, your bloom, because your story is unique and it's the only one you're meant to live.